With floor 7 right around the corner and many players wanting to get into dungeons, I'll be breaking down each of the classes in hopes of making your decision easier when choosing one. This video will roughly cover each class and focus on their end game, but I plan to make a set of videos on each individual class which will focus on each stage of the game in the future. Now the last thing that I'm going to say before we get into the actual video is I put a lot more effort into this video than I normally do. If this video does help you guys out or you learn something new, make sure you smash the like button, and if you're new around here and you guys want to see some more high quality and amazing Hypixel Skyblock content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn those post notifications on so you get notified every single time I upload a brand new video or go live. And let's get into it. Starting off with the Mage. Mage is the best overall class. It also has the highest mobility due to the insane mana it can have, and also it is the best at clearing rooms. Some of the cons of being a Mage is that it's actually very squishy if you want to maximize your damage. Another thing is that it is the most popular class, and the reason that that's not exactly good is because you might get kicked from some parties because they might be looking for a healer or some other class. And also it's likely to be nerfed again because of how overpowered the left click mage actually is. Now the mage is actually a very interesting class because you can play this a couple of different ways. You have the left click, which actually sort of focuses on more of a berserker side, and the right click focuses more on a mage or a mana side of things. Now let's talk about what an end game left click mage actually looks like and how much that build actually costs. So when going left click mage, you're most likely going to be running with a 5-star shadow assassin set, a 5-star giant sword, a 5-star spirit scepter for clearing rooms, and also for the pet you're probably going to be choosing a legendary dragon pet, or maybe below that would be a legendary griffin pet. Now the total for that build, not including the pets, is about 105 million coins depending on what it's looking like in the auction house. Left click mage is pretty expensive, but at the same time it does a ton of damage and is really good. The only issue with this, or the only possibility that could become an issue, is that this is likely to get nerfed because of how amazing it actually is, so I would be very careful with that if you're planning on investing your money into this build. Now let's talk about a right click mage build. So for a right click build, you would be running a 5-star 3/4 wise with shadow goggles, a 5-star Midas staff, a 5-star spirit scepter for clearing rooms, and then also a legendary sheep pet. The total for the right click build actually comes out to 151.6 million coins, which you might think is actually more expensive than left click, but that's not actually true because the left click did not include the pet, which would definitely cost more than the right click build. Right click builds are also very fun to play as. They're very good at clearing rooms, even better than left click. They also can kill bosses pretty quickly as well, even mini bosses too, but definitely not as fast as left click because that's what left click actually specializes in. Now let's cover the archer class. Some pros about the archer class is that it is actually the highest DPS, and it does insane DPS, and it's also insanely good at killing mini bosses and normal bosses. Some of the cons is that it is very squishy, and it also has a very poor room clearing ability. Now, what an archer build will look like is a 5-star 3/4 shadow assassin plus tarantula helmet, 3 5-star spiritual bonerangs, 5-star last breath, 5-star flower of truth, and then for pets it would be either a dragon or a griffin pet, just like left click mage. Now the archer class is definitely a little expensive, but so is mage. The thing is though is that these guys are insane for bosses. I mean, they annihilate bosses in just a couple of seconds. It's unbelievable how quick they can actually do it. The only places that the archers actually fall off is in room clearing, but at the same time mages are the best possible room clearers, and when you're really late game like level 28 plus, archers really aren't that bad when they're using the flower of truth to clear rooms. They're actually pretty good. The last thing I'd like to mention about the archers is that they can surprisingly be a pretty good support class. By using their last breath bow, it actually has an ability which reduces the defense of the target by 50 on hit, and this can stack up to 2 times, so they can reduce the armor by 100. Now obviously once the armor is reduced, that means that everybody else can do more damage, and it's very nice. Now let's start talking about the Berserker. Some pros to the Berserker is that it is the 3rd highest DPS class, and it's also not super squishy. Now some of the cons about the Berserker, well, to be honest, I couldn't really think of any. A Berserker build is very similar to a left click mage or a couple of other different builds actually. You would have a 5-star shadow assassin set, a 5-star flower of truth, a 5-star livid dagger, and possibly even a 5-star shadow fury, and additionally for the pets it would be a legendary dragon pet, griffin pet, or even a yeti pet. So my opinions on the Berserker class. I think the best thing about it is that it seems like it is the cheapest possible class compared to say the mage or the archer so far. It doesn't outdamage either of these classes, but it can out room clear an archer, which is pretty good. Another thing that's Berserker specific is that it has a lot of lifesteal, and also combining that with the flower of truth, it has a lot higher survivability rate than say an archer or maybe even a mage. So it's time to talk about my favorite class, and honestly, well, I'm a little biased here, but the best worst class in the entire game, the healer. Pros of the healer. It is the best class, monster certified. It heals. It can play as tank, berserker, and mage. Wish can save other people, and it is the easiest class to find parties with because everybody usually wants a healer. The only con, in my opinion, is that it has lower DPS than every other DPS class, and that's because it's not a DPS class. Now, don't get me wrong though, I'm not saying these are the worst DPS. You could definitely outperform a bad berserker or maybe even a mage as long as you have a maxed out healer setup. Now, going into the build, you can play a couple of different roles. You could play berserker, mage, or tank. Now, I would not recommend tank at all when you get to late game because there's no point in tanking. You're going to want to maximize your damage. Starting off with the berserker build, you're going to want to go 5-star, 3/4 shadow assassin plus the Mender Fedora for extra healing, a 5-star flower of truth, 5-star livid dagger, and then additionally an overflux orb. And then for the pets, you're going to want to either get a whale pet or a baby yeti pet. That totals out to 120.8 mil, not including the pets. And I honestly would not recommend this just because the mage build is such higher damage and it's way more worth it. But if you want to save some money, you can definitely go with the berserker build and still do very well. Now, the mage build, my personal favorite, and in my opinion, definitely the best possible build you can go. 5-star, 3/4 wise plus shadow goggles, 5-star Midas staff, 5-star spirit scepter, and the overflux orb with a legendary sheep pet. This build is definitely a lot more expensive. It is 192.6 million coins, and the reason for this is mostly because of the overflux orb and the Midas staff. Midas staff is extremely good for killing mini bosses and bosses and basically doing a lot of damage in a very short amount of time, but it does cost a fair amount of mana. Now, myself, I personally don't have a Midas staff because 115 million coins is a lot of money, especially with floor 7 coming right around the corner. Hopefully, there could possibly be a brand new mage weapon which might knock this out of the park and make this not as good, so I'm going to hold my money on to then, and then I'll probably buy one. Additionally, if you are a healer, you definitely should have an overflux orb because if you don't, that is so embarrassing to be like level 28 healer and not have an overflux. Just make sure you get one if you're going to be a healer, please. If you really want to flex on people, you could also get a plasma flux, but I did not want to add the cost to this total because that would just kind of inflate it a little bit much, and you don't need a plasma flux. Now, the final class, and sorry to say, the worst class of them all, the tank. Now, the pros of the tank, well, there aren't any. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, there really aren't that many, but it is very hard to die when you are a tank, so I guess that's a pro. Cons of a tank is that they barely do any damage, and they're very likely to get kicked in the end game. Now, for the build, I really maximize this build. You don't need to use a precursor eye. You could just use a necromancer lord helmet, but if you really want to be the best possible tank that you can be, it would be 3/4 necromancer plus precursor eye with a flower of truth, a livid dagger, and then for the pets, it would be either a whale or yeti pet. Now listen, tanks, I'm sorry for saying that you guys are the worst class. Don't take any offense. Get mad at Hypixel. Don't get mad at me because Hypixel makes you guys completely useless. Even for healers, healers aren't super needed in the very, very late game. You can do it with just full mages. You don't actually need even a healer or a tank. So, some more things about the tank is that, well, they're just really useless because they are not needed at all. They're basically a berserker. They just do less damage and nobody actually needs a tank. So, the way that you play a tank is you just take a ton of damage and you basically play as a berserker with a ton of defense and HP. And that's about it. I don't really think there's anything else to say about a tank, to be honest. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this video. I think I went over every single class. I try to make this as accurate as possible and even get as much information as I could from all of the top players in each of the different classes. If I messed up anything, please let me know in the comment section down below so I could try to correct it for next time. And also, if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you guys smash the like button. Also, let me know in the comment section down below what class you are or even what class you're changing to or you're going to choose. Also, if you guys are new around here and you guys did enjoy the video and you want to see some more Hypixel Skyblock quality content, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, turn those post notifications on so you can get notified every single time I upload a brand new video or go live. And I hope that you guys did enjoy, and I hope that you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you guys later. Goodbye.